work? Let's see. Um, okay, it looks like it's working. I should probably.
Cool.
Let me just hit the unmute on the mic just to make sure. Or on
Hmm.
YouTube, of course. Yeah, it's working. Cool. We're good.
Great.
Uh, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to the 76th episode of Paranormal Encyclopedia. You're going to notice, of course, that there's no video tonight because I have a guest. And as everyone knows, Skype never works with showing video on YouTube anyway. But my friend here, Lupus Creepus, is having some problems with his own camera, so he wouldn't have had video even if it was working for once.
Yep, unfortunately.
I could certainly introduce you, but why don't you introduce yourself so let anyone who doesn't know who you are.
Sure, sure. I am Lupus Creepus. I have my own YouTube channel, which is conveniently titled Lupus Creepus. And there, I read scary stories. I also have some creepy Let's Plays of some creepy games. But probably the biggest thing I'm known for on there is my series called Will It Kill Me, where I test out a whole bunch of those creepy ritual pastas and all of those crazy ghost games and all that, and essentially see if they will kill me.
And of course, as we can all tell, you're still alive.
Yeah, yeah. So far so good.
So our topic for tonight, of course, is going to be urban legends, but there is something I have to ask you.
Yeah,
So you did the devil game.
I did. I did.
Now I know that you did it live on video, like you do with most of your ritual pastas, but you also did it off camera. So I just have to make sure. Have you gone evil on us?
No. Now that you mention it. No, because according to the ritual, if you do go evil, you only last like that for like a day before like the devil blows up your body.
It seemed like though, if you agree to the term, if basically you sell your soul, he'll give you your body back.
Um, I think not. Let's see. It's been a while since I've
Yeah.
read it, so I can't remember. Let's see. If you get that particular ending where he takes your body, you're trapped in the mirror world. You're trapped there until you give him your soul. Then I think you just go to hell unless he like really likes you, and then you get high kind of thing.
Hey, you might get a middle management position.
Yeah, maybe it'll be a good job. I mean, I don't know what benefits it does, but I imagine they're pretty good.
You're in complete control of the government at the moment.
Maybe as medical employees, that's a big thing.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, I've got a tooth, wisdom tooth that's got to come out, and I don't. My insurance doesn't start till the first of next month.
Ah, so you gotta wait.
Yeah, that or just work out a payment plan. I'm trying to decide. Am I going to deal with it, or do we just have to go into debt?
If you can just hang on a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think I might be able to. Tylenol is working for now, so
Good. At least you got that.
so since I mean we can certainly get into creepypasta since I think they tie into urban legends at this point.
I think a lot of them really do because essentially I kind of see this like creepypastas as almost like the urban legends of the internet, or like I guess like the classic creepypastas. Because I mean, there's so many categories and stories, but if you look at like the classic stuff, they're really like the internet urban legend.
They are, and I mean realistically, some of them were original. Bloody Mary certainly was originally an urban legend.
Mm-hmm.
I did it when I was a kid. I think a lot of my listeners probably did it as a kid. It's the slumber party sleepover thing, or the light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Oh yeah, all those crazy sleepover games.
Yeah, I still remember doing it at a Halloween party once, and we actually wound up dropping the guy on the floor because everybody freaked.
Oh.
We had him up to like waist height, and everybody freaked out. I mean, granted, now I know with physics and everything else, it has an explanation.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it's like distribution of mass or weight or something like that.
Yeah, that's it exactly. It comes down to once you distribute it between everybody, it's actually not that much. In fact, you can. There's a way to do it with the person seated, and you get it with only four people each using two fingers instead of two fingers from each hand.
Mm-hmm.
And
No,
there's
that makes sense.
yeah, there's no paranormal with that one. It's just here's a cool stunt you can do, and I've seen it in a couple of books on magic tricks. But that's
Nice,
about it.
nice.
So, what's your favorite urban legend?
Oh my gosh. So that's
Hard to pick.
there's so many, and the problem is I'll forget some too. And I'm like, oh my god, that was really good. Uh, I personally I always like I know that there's a whole bunch of different types, but I always like the paranormal ones. Those are the ones that I always go for, and I always like the ones that go for like the creatures. You know, I always like the monsters. Um, oh, let's see. I'm gonna try to think of some that I know of. Um, hmm. Oh, there's so many. I've always, at some point, this is one that I would love to do. I know down in Ojai, California, there's an urban legend about a bridge where if you like go on the bridge and scream help, Burning Man will come like running out after you.
I've heard of that
It's
one
really
actually.
creepy. Um, hmm.
Although, again, the nature of urban legends, if memory serves, I thought I heard about one like that in Virginia.
Oh.
Similar story with Burning Man, and I remember reading a version of it, and it might have been in one of the weird books or something like that, where there was a degree of truth to it. Not like paranormal, but there was actually a guy who had lived in the area that had been burned that would occasionally, you know, not like when people called help, but he would show up around the bridge.
Oh, that's interesting.
But who I don't know, who knows for sure? I could be remembering it wrong. Even I think
Yeah.
and I think it's an important truth that a lot of myths and legends, and I think this goes for urban legends. Somewhere, somehow, there's a little bit of kernel of truth like that. It's like, no, it's not a supernatural being that's going to kill you, but people go to the bridge, they see a guy who was caught in a fire at some point, they freak out. He's a decent guy. They call for help, and oh my god, it's real. No,
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing with these is they just develop like that. I mean, it could be something just small and insignificant, and then as it just goes out, it gets just bigger and bigger and blows up into this giant, crazy story of burning people running along bridges.
there's a story in didn't get never got around to reading the full book, and I wound up losing it since. But there's a story in the Mothman Prophecies book, which is actually a collection of this paranormal investigator's experiences, where basically by accident he became an urban legend
Huh.
because he's going around collecting stories in this area of Virginia where the Mothman had been sighted.
Oh, so you got the legend of like the guy hunting the Mothman.
Oh, not just that. People were saying he was the devil,
Oh. Oh.
or like a Men in Black kind of figure, because he's going around at night knocking on people's doors. Nobody knew who he was. It's like I sort of like to reach the point where I'm an actual urban legend myself. That seems kind of fun.
That would actually be pretty cool. That would be interesting.
Given time, I wouldn't be surprised. Heck, knowing the internet, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody out there is speculating that you died on a ritual, and that's why we haven't seen you in a couple of months.
I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised.
It's just I obviously I have a lot of experience with the paranormal, but I do love the folklore and the mythology and the legends and the stuff I don't actually believe in. Sometimes just because it's a good story.
Oh yeah, that's with a lot of these. In fact, like when I do like the ritual pastas and all those, my favorites are the ones that find a way to include a story into it. Because a lot of them are just like, oh, do this, do this, do this, but some are able to really formulate an entire story around that ritual. It's like there's kind of an underlying just narration going on along with the actual ritual.
Yeah, and it makes it. I agree. It makes it vastly more interesting. Because sometimes you read them and it's like this is stereo instructions. Do X, do Y, do Z, and Satan will appear. And if you don't, if it works, you'll die horribly. Mm, It's not
Yeah,
terrible per se,
that
but
seems. Yeah, that seems to be the result of like all of them. Just you die horribly, you get disfigured, maimed, sent to hell, or dragged off into the void. There's very few where it's like, if you mess up, then you just feel bad about yourself.
If you mess up, you feel like a total idiot because you're standing in a dark bathroom because that's where you always seem to wind up.
Mm-hmm.
With soot all over your face and the cops are coming and no demon.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, you had the cops show up at one of yours, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I did. It was for Sujiura. It was the fortune game. We were on a. For some reason, we were trying to find a crossroad that uh, that would apply. We wanted to find a crossroad that was far enough away from like civilization that we could get out. And there was one that was kind of ish in a residentialish area, but apparently they were on top with like their neighborhood watch or something. And like we were out there doing it, and we were in the middle of the thing, and the rules are you have to like keep your head down or whatever while you're waiting for the stuff to happen. And the first stranger that comes up to you, you have to straight your face and ask what your fortune is. So of course, when the cops come up, I'm like, "What is my fortune?" And it's like, "What?" And it's like, "Okay, this is what we're doing." I mean, they were really polite about it. I
Yeah.
mean, it was like, I think they can tell like when people are being extra weird and just the normal amount of weird. But so I mean, they let us finish. They stuck around, I think, to make sure that we would vacate. But
Yeah.
they let me finish the stuff and everything. I mean, they were very pleasant.
They usually. I mean, I've had a few run-ins with cops on investigations, and I've never been arrested. I've never been fined. I've never been arrested. A couple of the times I remember doing a very famous haunted cemetery in Connecticut called Union Cemetery, and they've had a lot of problem with vandals. But you know, we kind of tiptoed around the line because there's a gate around the cemetery with a sign over the gate saying, do not enter between dusk and dawn.
Hmm.
We parked on the outside of the gate. And it's a private road, so, they're just off of the main one, so it's not like we're blocking traffic or anything.
Yeah, yeah.
The cop shows up and he goes, "You can't tell me you don't know you're parked under the sign." And he wound up being pretty cool, so he's like, "So are you getting anything?" And then he tells us we can go into the cemetery. The second cop shows up around dawn and you're not supposed to be here. We explained that we were given we didn't go in until we got the permission, which was true.
Hmm.
For the record, that's true. Until the cop said it was okay, we did stay outside. Although we were pretty close to saying, "Oh, screw it, we're gonna just do it anyway." um, and he's like, "Well, you're not supposed to be here. He should have told you that." They wandered off and told the other people who were there to go away. They weren't supposed to be there. And he comes back and goes, "So, did you get anything?" And in fact, we did. We got a the cemetery is famous for having a white lady that'll appear, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of stories attached to her. But aside from she wanders around the cemetery, she's a phantom hitchhiker, which is of course a very classic urban legend.
Oh yeah, that's that's one of the big ones. That's up there with like Bloody Mary level urban legend.
Yeah, and we wound up getting a female voice on the recorder saying, "Help me,
Wait, what was that?
help me,"
Huh.
which is and people who have seen there's video footage that Ed Warren got in there, and there's reports that people have had of people seeing her like approaching them and small like dog-sized spirits jumping up and pushing her back, which raises some really interesting questions about that EVP to me. Uh,
Hmm.
Unfortunately, Lou has since passed away, and I haven't had a chance to go all the way up to Connecticut since it's not exactly a short drive.
Oh yeah.
It's like it's a 3-hour drive. On the other hand, it's like I want to know what's going on with that.
It kind of depends on what wins out. The curiosity or the laziness.
Granted,
I want to know.
there's other things I could do up there. The Lorraine, who's still alive, does lectures and does actually bring and I have so many problems, so many things I could say about this. But she brings a bunch of stuff out of the museum, including the famous Annabelle doll.
Oh yeah, yeah. You know, speaking of the sun, this is gonna be like way off on a tangent, but
Go for it.
I remember watching the Annabelle movie,
Oh
and
God.
this was I already was familiar with the Annabelle doll
Yeah.
beforehand, and I watched the movie, and I'm like, this is nothing like it.
Yeah, it's a stupid as hell movie.
I'm like, this is nothing like it. First off, I'm looking at a doll going, that's not even the doll. It's like a freaking Raggedy Ann doll.
Yeah, which I think they probably did the weird, creepy porcelain doll for copyright reasons with the Raggedy Ann character.
Of course. But I'm just looking at it going, this isn't it at all. This is lame.
Well, it's a kicker. You saw, I assume you saw the original Conjuring.
Yes, yes, The Conjuring was good. I like The Conjuring.
It's also that's the whole story of the doll. It's in the movie. They changed a couple of details, but it's in the movie already.
Yeah. I'm like, but of course they gotta do the whole, like, we got our own thing with it. Yay!
Well, yeah, there is a. I mean, having read the original case and knowing, having talked to people who've seen the bloody doll, and yes, it moves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's not much there to do a whole movie about that doll.
So I guess, yeah, that's the problem with a lot of
Yeah.
movie stuff is, there's a lot of things to consider with movies. It's
Mhm.
like what looks good visually on screen. You have to do it within the time frame. Is this story going to be one that's going to hold for
Yeah,
2 hours, or it's there's a lot to it.
this is true. And there, I mean, the original Conjuring, you said, it's a very good movie. It's I'm not real familiar with the Perone case that it's based on, but the movie is generally pretty accurate to the Warrens' work and to the stuff I've done. Um, and the second one is I'm a little more familiar with the case, and it is actually fairly accurate.
Hmm. Okay.
And have you heard about the third one?
Oh yeah, I heard they're doing it, but I don't remember what it was.
It's right up your alley. It's werewolf.
Oh sweet. Can't wait with the werewolf stuff.
Yes, it's another Warren's case. The exorcism of a man by the name of Bill Ramsey,
Hmm.
and yeah, he's supposed to have been a werewolf. If you go, you yourself and anyone listening who's interested, if you Google Bill Ramsey werewolf, you can even see pictures of him during the exorcism.
Huh. I have to do that.
Yeah, I figured you'd probably be interested. But yeah, I would say the obvious question I would ask you with all of the various rituals you have done, I think I know the answer to, but for the record, which one was the one you most hope worked?
Most hope worked.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. God, I gotta remember all the ones I did. There's so many.
Yeah, true. I was figuring it would be the one where you would have become a werewolf.
Yeah, there's that one. There's that one. Um, there is. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what are the ones I did?
Yeah.
Let's see. If 11 miles worked and I completed that, I got a wish, so that would have been awesome.
Yes, it would.
Um,
It's one of my favorites, actually.
it's a great. I like that one. It's a great story. What else was there that would good? Like any of the ones that basically ended me getting stuff. That would be awesome.
Instead of the ones where it's like,
There's a
yeah,
bunch or two where you get like a little ghost friend that like does stuff for you. That would have been awesome.
right, the familiar spell.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the one that we still reminds me a lot of old actual like magical practice, although it's not actually based on anything. It's not based on a specific ritual, but there's some whoever wrote that knew a little bit about traditional folk magic.
I think that's where a lot of these kind of stem from. I can see is like you take like an idea or a concept or like an inspiration from something, and then that is what you use to kind of help build the rest of your ritual story.
Yeah, I would agree. It's why I think if you remember when the first time we had you on, since this is now actually number three, Drew had mentioned the idea that you, Brittany, and your crew are like basically modern folklorists.
I remember talking about that, and I think that's accurate. In a way.
And it's the value. I think, and I'm sure there are people who would disagree with me, and hopefully there are people that would. I think it's kind of the value in what you do that there's still this tradition there that's worth preserving, even even from a purely skeptical standpoint of none of it's worked. There's still something. There's that oral tradition that is the urban legend that's now becoming an internet thing, and not to mention the endless slew of people out there that want to go and try all of these crazy things.
Hmm.
And some of them, the elevator game, you're probably just going, assuming as we both do that it isn't going to work. You're probably just going to annoy a hotel employee or something if you try it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the Fukisachi Ono, was it the one at Crossroads? You could wind up getting fined for trespassing.
Yeah, that's like the thing is like you gotta be really careful with some of these because just in the end, that let's see. Let me get my train of thought back here.
Yeah.
But I know like a lot of people ask me, like advice if they want to do this stuff or whatever. But I think a lot of people tend to focus on like the supernatural dangers, like the ghost is gonna come and get you.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people forget about just the real world dangers of like, hey, this is there's you could get arrested or light a fire and like burn everything.
Yeah, 100 lit candles is not the safest thing.
It's not. We were safe. We had fire extinguishers
Yeah.
standby.
And when I wound up doing it last year, we were also safe. We just went with LED candles. Ain't gonna burn something down with an LED candle.
Hmm.
It was an interesting experience. I mean, one, and it's a lesson I've learned because I'm trying to do it again this year, is I have to limit how long people can talk. It took us 6 hours to get through 100 stories.
Oh wow. I forgot. You know what? I could look it up how long
Yeah.
because there is a video of it and I could find out exactly what it was. I'm going to find this out. I know it took us a while, but I don't think it took us 6 hours.
Yeah, well, the problem I had is like I had somebody read a good chunk of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven,
Oh,
and
okay.
other people just, and it's my fault entirely. I didn't say like, okay, keep it to 2 minutes. I didn't, and I myself rambled on with my first couple of stories.
Hmm.
So I can get it, but it's like realistically, if we all want to be here for the end, and we don't want to be here for 6 hours, except for a couple of special cases, I'm going to say 2 minutes. The upside being, I actually, I have friends that'll be at the event that are, I have a good friend that, by the name of, who uses the performer named Lilith Lore, who's a professional storyteller. And if she's willing to come back again and tell a story she did last year, it's like I ain't gonna tell her how long to tell the story for, because she's good and she's fun.
Hmm.
Not to mention ridiculously popular. But it's like, no, I don't want you reading the entire The Raven as much as I love that poem. We don't have all night.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see that.
Although I have to say, and it was kind of the funny thing, is I went into it totally expecting nothing would happen. I mean, I put in all the descriptions, and when I talk to people, maybe it'll work. But realistically, I thought, no, nothing's going to happen. But by the end of 6 hours, between like the 5 hour mark and the 6 hour mark, it got weird.
Really?
Yeah, we're seeing, me and the one person who's left, because everybody else has long since gone to bed, are starting to see shadows moving out of the corner of our eyes. We'll see somebody walk by, we'll look up, but there's nobody there. A couple of weird noises, things like that. But when we actually did the last story and put out the last candle, nothing. Yeah, which is again, that's what I expected. I just thought it was weird. Stuff was happening until we actually finished it and something was supposed to show up. It's like, really? Really, dead people?
You're not doing it now.
Then again, that's maybe that's me because maybe that's just the nature of ghosts. Because I know if I was a ghost, I'd probably screw with people that way.
I wouldn't, especially because I'm a hardcore vampire. I don't do that.
It's like, yeah, I'd spend quite a while running around. Specifically, I think at this point, aside from the fact I want to mess with a whole bunch of skeptics,
Mm-hmm.
I'd want to mess with people doing ritual pastas.
Oh, of course.
It's like, go find somebody doing Bloody Mary and go, hi.
Let's be like, hey.
Yeah,
Oh, I would not want to be in a house haunted by ghosts or people. I would do small things too. Just be like, first off, I hope I have some ghost friends because I want to share this with other
well,
people.
yeah, clearly.
And just be like, hey man, watch this, and just take like their keys and just move it somewhere, and then just watch them freak out over it, or just be like, hey, just go stand in that hallway and let them see you for a second. They'll live.
Exactly.
That person that's like standing in the hallway looking all ominous, is going back telling his ghost friends, be like, they freaked out.
I'm just thinking of like uh, the various paranormal TV shows and the usual over the top. Oh my god, what was that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like your goal. You want that to happen.
Yeah.
Tell you what though, what God forbid I pass away anytime soon and you're still doing the ritual pastas, I'll try and give you a boost.
That would be great. I'd really appreciate that. We just pop in and just be like, hey, what's going on?
It's like, see, I did what I promised.
You got in contact with a ghost.
And I'll find a way. And yeah, expect your car keys to get moved or something annoying.
Oh no, I need those stuff.
Well, I won't like move them to the center of the earth or something. It'll just be like, wait, it was there, now it's there. Because there's the dick move of hiding it, and you spend 3 hours looking for it, and then there's the annoying move of just move it from one side of the room to the other in plain sight where it's not going to be missed.
Just like, really? That's the game plan? Is that it?
Well, it's also the if I again if I die before he does, and he's old enough that I think it's unlikely. The magician James Randi, who's a very well-known skeptic. What I want to do at least for a month is just follow him around, tap one shoulder, wait till he turns around, tap the other shoulder. It's petty, I know.
Sounds like a whole lot of fun.
Yeah, so it's like the look on his face, and that am I going insane? It does make me wonder sometimes. It's like there's enough ghost hunters I know that have passed. You have to wonder why more of them aren't doing this, or maybe they are.
Maybe I'm not going, guys, I'm here. I don't know if I want a ghost hunter coming back because he just starts criticizing me. Just being like, you really expect to like get something with this equipment? Come on, be smarter than this. It's like, oh, you're using that pendulum? Oh my gosh, you're such an amateur.
What you need is you need my mentor Lou to come by, because he'll have fun. You'll get results, but he'll have fun with you.
That reminds me, there's one. It was Murdered Soul Suspect. It was a video game. They really like
Yes, I played it.
yeah. I love one part. There's like these ghost hunters in a cemetery, like talking like, "Oh, we're gonna find the ghost," and of course they can't see anything, and nothing picks up. But you got one like one ghost like in front of the camera going, "Hey, I'm like, yeah, that'd be it. But dang, the poor guy, they can't film anything."
I remember. I have to say, I really enjoyed that game,
Mm-hmm.
except for one giant thing. Dear crap, is it short?
Yeah, it was pretty short.
I mean, I didn't even try, and I finished it within like a couple of hours.
Yeah, it was not a very long one.
It's like great concept, good gameplay, interesting story. and you make it way too short. Why do you tease me, video game makers?
They probably like they couldn't figure out a good way to extend the storyline for I guess further, I suppose.
I get you, although it seems like there's a way.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's other things too. I remember there's other like AAA games that were just like 4 hours long. Or the
Mm.
big one, The Order for PlayStation 4. That one a lot of people got on because like a 4 hour game.
I wanted to play running it, but I didn't get to play it all that long. I was busy that weekend or something.
Hmm. Well, I guess if you got like an afternoon, you could probably beat it pretty
Yeah,
quick.
which is what happened with Murdered Soul Suspect. I
Hmm.
bought it and I beat it in an afternoon, and it's like okay, and it wasn't even like replay play value because I did go through and get all the handful of little extras you could get in the game.
Hmm.
It wasn't that hard.
No, no, it's yeah, it's a pretty just straightforward game.
Which, granted, is a problem I have with a lot of video games anymore. It's like maybe it's just I've gotten better, but it seems like when I was a kid they were harder.
I think you're right though. But I think when when we were kids and stuff, it was
Mm,
you couldn't save or anything like that. Like that was part of the fun. Was like if you beat a game, you were awesome.
yeah, this is true.
Like it's like wow, you beat that game. You beat it. What?
I know. I'm just thinking of the original Castlevania, no save feature, and you leave the game on for days just because otherwise you can't go back. You have to start over again.
Oh yeah, or Super Ghosts and Goblins,
Oh God.
where you go through, you beat the entire game, and then you get told, okay, you need to go through it again and get a particular thing. That sucks.
They go beginning to end and then go back. It's like, oh God.
It's like really.
The real kicker is being a Konami game. That one has the Konami code in it,
Hmm.
so you can and it's a level skip, so you can skip straight to the end. It just doesn't do you that much good. Because great, now you got to flip it over. You still got to do it over again. And guess what? You can't level skip no more.
So at least that makes it so you only have to play it and beat it one time.
Yeah, but it was a fun game, and I remember playing it for the when it was in the arcade way back when. Because
Hmm.
sadly, I am actually old enough to remember actual arcades.
I remember actual arcades too.
We have actually a nice one not far from me now called iPlay, where it's an arcade and it has rides and things like that as well.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, dude, arcades are like starting to become like amusement park level stuff because you get like things where you could get the full blown chair setup booth thing and
Yeah,
stuff starts going off and you got some have like 3D glasses and everything. It's like you're going on a ride.
yeah. Tell me about it. It is just interesting to watch. One, to watch the development of the technology, and two, to go. There's some things I miss about the classics.
Hmm.
You know, I playing some of those. The 4D thing that's like a ride. It's like, yeah, but what about the old days where you sat in like a bloody sphere and it turned when you turned the thing, the joystick.
Hmm.
You don't see that as much anymore.
Oh, I'm sure if you give them enough time, they're just gonna put you in a full fledged mech.
We can hope.
They're just gonna be like, okay, you want to play the game? All right, strap on this suit.
No,
I remember one.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I remember one comedian was talking about how like video games are getting so realistic. Eventually, just gonna be like, hey, you want to play video games? Sure. And they just start punching each other.
Well, I was just listening to a creepypasta not that long ago where you wind up, it's real life, the simulator essentially,
Hmm.
and you wind up, you're in a city, you can do kind of more or less whatever you want, and you get the warning, do not look for the pariah. And the
Of
guy's
course, you can.
well, the guy starts out and it's like it's a video game, it doesn't matter, so he goes on a killing spree. And then eventually he's like, okay, let's follow that quest line and go look for the pariah. And as we can all guess, this is going where you expect. He finds the pariah, he kills the pariah, and now he's the pariah.
Oh.
Except it's real life, and now people are hunting him, and he's living on the streets.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, it was a fun way of doing it, but the twist wasn't subtle.
Oh, that just brings up a whole other just can of worms of just twists. Actually, there's something else that annoys me more than bad twists.
Mhm.
It's unfinished stories.
Oh God,
So
yeah,
there are so many on there where it's been like, this is a really good story, and then it will like have a really good introduction, and then it leads into the stuff, and then the paranormal crap happens. I'm like, oh my god, how do you deal with this? And the answer is, I don't. I end my story here. There was one. God, it was like the first time that happened, so it stuck out in my mind, and it was on like one of the podcast things, and I got into it. It was like a story about uh, like this girl, like her brother or somebody died, and then she got a tattoo to like commemorate him, but then other stuff started happening with the tattoo, and then like the brother came back and was like doing ghosty stuff, but then something else came back, and like she realizes, oh my god, there's like a demon or something following me, and then it ends. And I'm just like, what? You're not done. You just started. That is the introduction. That is episode one. You're not gonna go. I want to know what happens.
yeah. It's like it's the one, and thankfully it's an ongoing thing because it's driving me crazy because I want to know what comes next. But at least there will be a next. Have you read or listened to the Good Shade stories yet?
No, I haven't.
It's a series of stories about somebody who works in a hotel that caters to some type of otherworldly thing, and it's a so far I found three, and there are narrations on YouTube. I haven't. I tried looking it up to see if there was more written versions of the story. I'm suspecting that the person narrating they very well just be making them up and doing them on YouTube.
I mean,
But
that is possible.
yeah, and it's cool because they're neat stories. But it's like, come on, what happens next?
At least they're continuing.
Yeah,
Like, give me that. If you're gonna do like a part one, that's fine.
yeah.
But just, you better be planning on part two.
Yeah. No, no unresolved cliffhangers.
Yeah, I know.
Because it sucks when TV does it too. It's like, oh, we'll end our first season on an epic cliffhanger, and then we're never picked up again, so you'll never find out what
Yep.
happens.
Yep. That happens all the time.
And they do it with, and that, it's like, it's a creepy pasta. There's nobody who, you're not waiting for the network to approve you. Just write the rest of the story.
Yes, just write it. Just write it. And I'm thinking to myself, being like, do you know the real reason why you didn't write how this ended? Because you couldn't think of how to end it.
Which I could believe.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very easy to paint yourself into that corner, and it's like, now what?
Oh, you figure it out. That's your job as a writer. You figure that crap out, man. Yeah, it's like, and that's not to be confused with like open-ended endings or anything like that. Like, I'm cool with that, but at least end your story arc.
Yeah, give it a sense of closure.
Mm-hmm.
Although, yeah. So there's definitely there are good ways of doing the open ended, but there are also some horribly cliched ways of doing the open ended. Just with the you know, and the person was horribly murdered, and the killer is still stalking us. There's only so many times you can do that before it gets old.
That's like every Jeff the Killer story ever.
Yeah, that's one of the big examples I was thinking of. It's like the whole Jeff the Killer. I don't know what you think of it, but the whole Jeff the Killer thing. I mean, I've listened to the original story. I don't think it's as horrible, as badly written as some people seem to think, but it's not a good story by any means.
Yeah, that's not, I admit, like I got like the Cliff Notes version just because it's one that I was just not interested in,
Yeah,
and just the more it came up and everything, and the more that I've seen, it's like it just seems like it's an okay storyline. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not very good. And just like how it's blown up to just like Jeff the Killer, go to sleep. Ah! And also, I think what scares me the most is the Jeff the Killer fangirls who are like, Jeff's so sexy.
Oh God,
Um,
that
let's not.
what really
Let's
disturb.
not.
I'm totally with you there because what really disturbs me is just thinking it's like these are the sorts of women that you can almost see being the ones that marry serial killers on death row.
Well, there, yeah, yeah. I mean, Jeff is a serial killer, so
Yeah, but
yeah.
I would hope at least some of the ones saying he's so sexy grasp it's fiction.
I don't know if they've seen his face or not, or even read the story because he's disfigured like in the creepy way.
Yeah,
Let's. Oh, oh boy.
but there are people that are no matter how bizarre it is, the Rule 34 applies to real life too.
Oh, this is true. This is true.
I, I I've spent enough time in the goth and the alternative communities that it's like there's somebody who finds it sexy no matter how disturbing you think it is.
I suppose you have a point.
It's like and that's a whole other will it kill me type of thing that I don't want to get into.
No, we'll not be having that
Yeah.
conversation. We will not be having that conversation.
And we all say thank you. Because the answer is quite possibly yes, and it's not going to be paranormal.
No, no, it's something completely different.
Although it definitely won't be normal.
Oh no, no, it won't be normal. Different and not normal, but
The
that's
wrong
the
kind of not normal.
that's the bad creepy. There's the good creepy and the bad creepy. That's part of the bad creepy. I don't go to the bad creepy.
Yeah, we all try to avoid the bad creep. Well, I talk serial killers and things like that on the show, but that's a different way of dealing with the bad creepy. It's like I'm not gonna go. I'm not. Okay. Part of me would be interested in like sitting down with one inside of a prison and talking to them, but I don't really want to like go out and watch them do it, or let alone
Yeah,
participate.
yeah,
Yeah. Just the fascination I have with the human mind. It's like, yeah, okay, I'd be curious to talk to one of them.
yeah. It'd be interesting to kind of see just how they tick. Like what makes them go this route or think this way.
Exactly. And you get that a little vicariously because there are interviews with various ones that you can find here on YouTube, no less.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
I did everything on YouTube though.
yeah, this is true. I remember one of the. I've only tried three ritual pastas aside from Bloody Mary, admittedly,
Mm-hmm.
and Light as a Feather. But one was the elevator game, and nothing happened. One was what was the other one? But also nothing happened. Oh wait, 100 Candles, which we just talked about. And the other one was the weird part of YouTube, and that actually sort of worked.
Which one was that?
Where you go onto YouTube and you just do a random search and then click on the weirdest recommended video and
Oh yeah, that's the weird part of YouTube, right?
yeah. And I try, one night I'm bored and I'm at my computer and like, let's see what happens. And I kept going long enough and I wound up actually on like Japanese porn. Like,
Hmm.
wait, how did this get through the censors?
Just the deeper you go.
Yeah. Like I did the thing and I put, it looks like I'm on the weird part of YouTube again in the comments and I just stopped there.
I don't think at least that's much very paranormal. I think that's just the internet.
Yeah, this is then again the internet is almost paranormal in its own right. The,
Almost, yeah. I can almost see it. Just the internet is weird, creepy, series of tubes.
And there's a apparently one of the conspiracies about the dark web or the deep web is that when you get deep enough down, you have an artificial intelligence that basically is the internet.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that artificial intelligence like hacks your computer and then immediately throws you into a red room.
Of course. Well, what else would it do?
It's like that's how every deep web story ends. Just like I found a red room, or I am in the red room.
Or I am the red room somehow. It's
Oh, I remember there was another person I was talking to who did like a bunch of like deep web like websites and all that, and how he ended it was just I went on there and I found a website that sold hot dogs, just hot dogs.
which is the most horrifying result possible.
Yeah, but he's like this what this guy does. He's on the deep web and he just sells this one stuff. There's nothing creepy or anything. He just sells hot dogs.
Why not?
I figured it probably wouldn't be the deep web for it, but why not?
I could see doing it just. There is that kind of viral sub type of marketing kind of idea where you do it in the deep web just to give it that illicit feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, if I was personally going to do something like that, okay, you sell hot dogs, but you imply that it's the hot dogs are people. You never actually say it, but you imply that you're selling human hot dogs.
The hot dogs are people.
Exactly. Soylent green hot dogs for everybody. Granted, I'm not sure that would surprise anybody given all the crap in hot dogs. But it's the sort of thing you have to do it subtly enough to make them wonder without saying it. Because if you just come out and say it, that's not as much fun.
Yeah.
Or hey, if nothing else, you get to go. I am the guy on the deep web that sells hot dogs among the kitty porn peddlers and the drug dealers and the prostitutes. I'm just selling hot dogs. Why? Because I can. And I suppose if you're enough of a paranoid, it's like, well, you don't want the man finding out about your hot dogs.
And they'll try to shut down your hot dog business. Come and tax you.
Not to mention just the difficulties of licensing and permits and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like my fiance and me, she's a really good baker. I mean, pretty much somebody we know has a birthday, they want her to make her a cake,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been suggested repeatedly you should sell these. The problem being, in according to New Jersey law, you cannot make something in your own house's kitchen and sell it. It's
So
like,
then every bake sale ever will be shut down.
well, I think it's more of like a commercial thing as opposed to a bake sale.
Ah, yeah.
But there's some, basically, she looked into it, and there is some goofy legal thing that says, nope, you can't do it.
Huh.
And it's like, why? Well, I guess I get it to a point because, well, yeah, okay, the government can't do anything to guarantee that you're remotely hygienic and.
Yeah, it's probably going to be off of that. More like off of, you know, safety, the cleanliness, and all that.
Yeah, that would be my assumption as well, but it's still kind of annoying.
Of course.
Because it's like, hey, we could be selling cakes, but no. Maybe we just need to run There's the two solutions I see here. One is to just do perpetual bake sales, and the other one would be deep web cake shop because they can't catch you. It's on the deep web.
Oh boy. Yeah.
It's like that could be. That's like the closest thing I can think of to a rational reason to sell food on the deep web. Is it's like, well, it lets you get around the licensing requirements.
Yeah. I feel like that's probably most of what the deep web is. It's just like random alternative sites like that. Like I know like the stories and all that make the deep web out to be like you're gonna go on there and find like sex trafficking and killing people and all that. It's like it's probably just people just trying to sell like cake or something out of their house. Like this, that's gonna be like 90% of it.
Well, I did read a news article, and it was from a fairly legitimate site about, or actually it might have been cracked. Come to think of it, but about a person working on a sociology doctorate, and for her dissertation she went into the deep web to research, pedophiles and pedophile rings, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, this stuff is really there, and she found people boasting about it and showing explicit pictures of very small children. And it's like, and part of the catch-all with it was, of course, she had to be really careful because there is no legal protection of, no, I am doing this to research this for scholarly purposes. I am not a pedophile.
Oh, gotcha.
Um, and yeah, she, of course, being a human being, she was absolutely horrified by the whole thing. But I think beyond that, and the fact that, yeah, there's probably a couple of people dealing in drugs,
Mm-hmm.
just because we do it with everything. Most of it is probably very boring and mundane.
It probably is.
I'd expect like 90% of it's probably just conspiracy theory crap. Because
Oh, I'm sure.
if you're sure the government's, Big Brother is watching, go where they can't watch.
Yeah, that's probably mostly what it is. That's my opinion.
Except, the very deep, dark corner where Satan is living currently.
Oh yeah, that Satan's like the console internet.
How got too crowded. So, there, I do want to ask, because this has been bugging me. How did you get a church to give you permission to do the devil's game?
I went a different route than traditionally.
Well,
What
okay.
what I went is instead of looking for a church I could film in, I looked for more. How do I put this? I looked for churches that were available for filming,
Okay.
and the one that I came up with was actually part of a. It's it was part of it was part of this like kind of old western setup that this guy had, and he has like a few different thing kind of set up, and one of them is like a church location. So I think it's more resembles a set piece than an actual church, but
Mm.
it has been used for like church services and stuff. Like, but
Sounds good enough for me.
yeah, it's like that was like the closest I was gonna get. It's gonna be like this is. I know this probably resembles more of a set piece than an actual church, but stuff has happened. They've
Yeah.
done things there, and this is the closest I got. So this is where it's happening.
I just remember liking the cross made out of the crossed rifles.
That was cool looking.
It's like that was the one that really made me wonder. It's like, what church is this? What denomination uses rifles? It wouldn't shock me if there's one just because Christianity gets weird. I
It does. It does.
mean, I may be a devout Christian, but yeah, we get weird. Funny weird off sometimes, but weird.
True. True.
So, you are coming back eventually. Do you have any new creepypastas in mind to try?
There's still a few that are on my list that I have to go back to. There's one that I found out recently. There was a few stories of. I think I did a video with some stories about it. But the Oklahoma Darkness game.
Yeah.
That is one where you're supposed to like freaking come across all sorts of demon stuff. That one interested me. And there's a few small ones, and I'm sure there's been many others that have been posted uh, that I can pull from now.
Yeah, there's always going to be more.
Oh yeah, always.
Sooner or later, I would assume as your channel grows, somebody is going to start writing them with you in mind.
surprised, to be honest. I think a couple people have written stories with me in mind and have sent them in.
Hmm.
But yeah, I would not at all be surprised if that was if yeah.
Now remember, you got that one weird letter in floppy disk with it.
Oh yeah, I couldn't get the floppy disk to work though, so
Yeah, that was just
it was a letdown.
it's such a pity. It's like somehow I think whatever's on there, assuming there was something on there, is probably not all that exciting either. But I mean, I can think of a couple. It's a three and a half disc cat. There's really not too much you can fit on there. The games that used to take like 20 of them, now you could fit six of them on one CD.
Oh god. Yep.
And you don't even do it on CD anymore. You just download it.
Yeah, you don't even need that stuff anymore. It's like you got all this other CDs are outdated now.
Which makes me just feel so old.
Me too.
How old are you again?
31.
10-year difference, exactly.
Oh god.
Which is not is nice because it's like half the people I hang out with are vastly younger than me, which sometimes just makes me feel like such a grandpa. Because when you're 41 and everybody's in their mid to early 20s, it's like, dear crap, I'm grandpa. I'm not even dad at this point. I feel like I'm grandpa. Granted, it's starting to change. I have you know, I've been Amisha and I have gotten involved in a vampire LARP recently, and like
Oh, nice, nice.
people there that are actually my own age, plus my friend Brian McKinley, who I need to have back on the show for I want to say it's the third time now because more technical problems. It's still more. I mean, we went and tried to film interviewing him in person because he doesn't live that far away, and the microphone wouldn't cooperate with us.
Oh, I hate when that stuff happens. Like when technical stuff happens, and you're just like, oh, I guess this is over.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the worst part. Is we thought it was working, so we filmed this 2 hour, 2 hour interview, and then when we went to edit it, we went, oh well, crap.
Stuff
Just
happens.
just like I have one of a couple of side series I'm working on called Terror at the Table of running horror RPGs and filming them for YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I swear that stupid thing is cursed. Because we had a comic book shop we were going to run it in, and it was great. They were going to shut down and everything for us, and then they had to move one of the Magic games to the only night that we could do it on, and I can't fault them because Magic is like the main source of income for those stores anymore. As much,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had the restaurant we were going to film it in, and then corporate came in and said, "Well, no, you can't film it here without getting a whole lot of stupid permission." We filmed two games, one of which you know very well, which is Dread,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah.
and it went beautifully. It was a great game that ended. It was a haunted house investigation that ended horribly. One person got dragged off to hell. One person decided to go serial killer, and the other person just basically ran out screaming, and that's how we survived it. But the audio was all messed up, and we couldn't use it.
Oh, I hate when that happens. When it's like, oh, I didn't get a great thing up, but it's screwed.
And,
Okay.
and we've talked about it, it's like we want to do the series again eventually, and hopefully that'll be coming up soon. But it's like trying to people. We tell people the story of that first game, and they're like, "You should redo it," and it's like it was lightning in a bottle. It's not going to happen again.
Yeah, that's the problem with something like that is it's just you're not gonna get the same thing
Yeah,
again.
I'm inclined when we do finally do a first game again to use Dread, just because I think it's a very visually interesting game.
It is, yeah, it is, and it really does give that vibe of
Oh yeah, oh god, yeah.
yeah, just like at any point I could just die.
And that sense of impending doom because it's like it's gonna fall. You know it's going to fall. For anyone listening who doesn't know, Dread is a role playing game in the same vein as Dungeons and Dragons, as it were, except instead of using dice, you use a Jenga tower. Uh, for those interested, Lupus here has a good example of running it on his channel,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a beautiful simple game that takes so little work to run. It's definitely and I'm weird. Normal people collect stamps. I collect role playing games. I've got more than I could ever run. If I sat and ran a playing game campaign in each system I know it to completion, it'd take me years to run through them all. I've got that. I've gotten that many over the years, and most of them I wouldn't want to run even if I found people to run it.
I can believe that because those are fun.
No, they really aren't. Although, there's the one. One of my favorites. It's an old one. I'm curious. I'd be curious if you know. Have you ever heard of Rifts?
No, no, I don't think I have.
Rifts is one of the most gonzo systems out there. Just because it is a post-apocalyptic horror sci-fi fantasy setting. So you can play dragons, cyborgs, mechas, psychics, wizards, all in the same campaign.
Oh wow.
And conceptually, it's great, and it's a really neat setting where they've spent decades developing this setting and mapped out the entire world, and it's Earth, but everything's it's hundreds of years from now, so everything's changed. But the system is one of the most unwieldy things I've ever seen. Um, but there's a much better as it's a wonderful setting, terrible system, but there's a much better system called Savage Worlds. And after years of telling everybody, no, you cannot adapt my game to another system, the creator of Rift finally said, okay, you can do it. So there's an official Savage Worlds adaptation. It works pretty good too. I ran a game, and yeah, I mean, we had basically the Human Torch, a Jedi Knight, a dragon, a mecha. That was the party, and it's like you look at it from a normal, D&D perspective. It's like what DM is going to let you run that kind of party in Forgotten Realms? Yeah, yeah.
All right, well, we've been going for about an hour,
Yep.
and do we want to hold it here, or
Um, are you up to going for a little? We can keep going, or we can stop. How you feeling?
I, s- I'm trying to still fit like a whole bunch of stuff in just a small amount of time.
Mm.
So I think if that's all right, I think probably about an hour is what I would be good for today.
I think an hour is good. I mean,
Hmm.
we caught up. We've had some fun. Um,
Hmm.
Thank you for doing this. I've had an enormous amount of fun having you on again.
Oh, it's always a good time on here. I always enjoy it.
Thank you. And like I said, it's a standing off here. I know your schedule is busy, but you get some free time and you get the urge to give me an email. I'll be happy to have you on at any time.
Awesome, thanks, man.
Okay. So I'm gonna say that wraps it up for us, everybody. This is Kevin Mears, your usual host, and my special guest host. You wanna send us out?
Lupus Creepus. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Okay.
And yeah, you might see me more on a Kevin show. But yeah, for all of you, take care tonight.
Have a good night, everyone. Okay, so